The miracles of God, parting the sea. Exodus chapter 14, verses 19 to 31. And the angel of God, who went before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them. And the pillar of cloud went from before them and stood behind them. So it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Thus it was a cloud and darkness to the one, and it gave light by night to the other, so that the one did not come near the other all that night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on the dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. Now it came to pass in the morning watch that the Lord looked down upon the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and he troubled the army of the Egyptians. And he took off their chariot wheels, so that they drove them with difficulty. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians, on their chariots, and on their horsemen." And Moses stretched his hand over the sea, and when the morning appeared, the sea returned to its full depth, while the Egyptians were fleeing into it. So the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. Then the waters returned and covered the chariots, the horsemen, and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. Not so much as one of them remained. But the children of Israel had walked on dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. So the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Thus Israel saw the great work which the Lord had done in Egypt. So the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. Oh, praise the God of miracles, the one who parts the sea. Imagine all the miracles my God can do for me. May I walk with confidence each and every day. Whatever be my circumstance, God can make a way. Matthew chapter 19, verse 26. But Jesus looked at them and said to them, "With men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." Insight and reflection. In Scripture, we can read time and time again about how God makes a way for his people through seemingly impossible situations. His power knows no boundaries, and his saving hand of grace comes in to rescue, preserve, and save his people when all seems lost in the face of man's evil schemes. The story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in Daniel chapter 3 is one that instantly springs to my mind, not to mention the incredible tale of God's life-saving miracle for Daniel himself in the lion's den later on in chapter 6. I always find the book of Esther a gripping read and come away stunned at how God came through, saving Mordecai, Esther, and all the Jews in spite of the murderous attempts acted out by the wicked and prideful Haman. In the book of Ruth, God made a way for Naomi and Ruth to come back from tragedy and the brink of poverty. We also read in the book of Genesis that he made it possible for Abraham and Sarah to become parents, making Abraham the father of many nations when biology and time had declared it was too late for them to have children. The list of saving miracles is endless, and God's power is limitless. So let's ask ourselves, am I facing a situation today that seems impossible and like there's no way through? Are people devising wicked schemes against me and plotting my ruin? If the answer to either of these questions is yes, then let's confidently bring that situation before God's throne in prayer today and seek his help, remembering who it is we're coming to. Let's not limit God with our limited imagination, but instead pray with faith and bring the impossible before the God who can make all things possible. Let's invite his power into that situation and ask him to fight for us, act on our behalf, and work according to his wisdom and sovereign will for our lives. Praises to the God who parts the sea.